In this video, I'm going to talk about macros. Now, what is macro? Macros are a set of sequential actions that are performed by a user. Now, it enables users to perform daily operations efficiently in a fast and process compliant manner. Now, you can reuse macros with different sessions based on the context parameters that are specific to the sessions. Now, remember, macro is something like if you want to introduce any sort of automation within the customer service omnichannel application, then macros is the right choice. Now, usage of macros. Now, why people will use macro is because automated, repetitive, and monotonous tasks, if you want to accomplish that with a single click, you can use macros. It minimizes human errors. It adheres to the business processes within your organization. It drastically reduces the handling time for addressing a case. It improves customer satisfaction. It creates a contextual and reusable macros by providing some context around what's happening within the execution part. Now, the rules required for executing a macro is basically productivity tools administrator. So now, if you go into your environment within Power Platform Admin Center, then you might find this role, productivity tools administrator, and then if you assign a user to it, then that's how you grant access to the users using a macro. Now, macro provide by default various connectors, but before we go into the connectors, I want to quickly show you under admin center. If you go to productivity and under macros, you'll be able to create a macro, and then you can view the run history for that macro as well. Now, macro provide three connectors: productivity automation, session connector, omni-channel connector, and there are other connector called as a flow connector. Now, first looking at the flow connector, it the screen might look like a Power Automate interface, and yes, it is a part of Power Automate interface. Now, it allows you to run a flow. Okay, so uh, macro allows you to run a Power Automate flow. So if you have a Power Automate flow defined with a proper context variable passing between them, then you can technically run a flow through this interface. Omni-channel connector, it allows you to do some actions. Okay, now one of the action is sending knowledge base article in chat. So if you want to send a knowledge base article in chat with just a single click, then you can do that using the omni-channel connector. You can link a record to the conversation, and you can unlink record from the conversation. So this you can do using omni-channel connector. Productivity automation. Now this is a huge list. Now you can do a whole bunch of things using productivity automation action. Some of the things which you can do is you can update an existing record. You can clone the input record. You can save the record. You can action to resolve the case. You can do a search based on the phrase. You can set agent script focus. You can search the knowledge base for the populated phrase. Open an email form with predefined templates. Open a new form to create a record. Clone current record. Open a record grid. Open existing record. Autofill form fields. Open knowledge base article. Now, why this all actions are important is because when a agent is interacting with a customer, agent does not have full free time to dedicate their action to look into various aspects of that particular case with regards to management of the system. Now, example, if a agent wants to quickly find what's happening with a customer, then he should be able to, or he or she should be able to uh, find an existing record, do a search based on some phrase very quickly. You need not get into the nitty gritty of the system. Okay, so that's why this automation macros will help the agent as a part of the agent script to perform those sort of automation. Now, session connector. Now, there is within a session, in omnichannel there is a concept called a session template, session, and application tab. Now, all this application tab and session tabs, all those things are part of the agent interface. Okay. Now, if agent wants to open some sort of a tab or has some focus on the tab or refresh the tab or refresh the session context, then those all things needs to be achieved in a very quick amount of time. So for that, agent need not go into individual tab and do those actions. So rather than that, a macro will help an agent to accomplish that activity. So let me show you an action. This is one of the active chat which is going on with my customer service agent. So let me just activate it. Now, where to see the macro is like if you go to search admin settings, here, if you search for macros, now here you will see productivity macros. Now, once you create a macro, it will be available as a part of the productivity pane. So now this is an agent which is having a conversation with a customer. If you see on the right hand side, here you will see something called as an agent scripts. Okay, so there is like agent script, there is a knowledge base, there is a smart assist, there is a teams chat. So if I go into the agent script now here, based on my access rights and session template, I will be able to see some sort of agent scripts. Now out of this agent script, I will have various steps which needs to be executed. Now here, if you see this agent script, this is simple text. Like if you click as mark as done, see, it will turn this into a green text, and it will say that, oh, now this is ticked off. Okay, now if this is simple text step, that's fine. But if you want to execute something bigger than that, like for an example, let me show you. Now if I go to apps and email, okay, now I'm opening email. So what this might do, like if I select a script exec macro ccc, okay, now here, this is basically executing this macro. Okay, now, once I execute this particular macro, what it will do, it will send out an email. Okay, this is just a simple example. Okay, now here, if I click here, it will run this macro, and this macro is basically executing a flow, and that flow is, sending out an email. Okay, so if everything works fine, then an email will be sent. Okay, now before than that, it is executing a Power Automate flow. So you need to first verify all the authenticated credentials, and once you authenticate it, then it will send out a an email. Okay, so let it load first. So basically what we are doing is like under agent script, we are executing a macro. Okay, and then we are just telling, okay, continue. Okay, and run a flow. Now what should happen is like I should receive an email, okay, named as test macro. So it can be anything. It's just, for example, I'm just showing you that it will send out an email with a test macro, and then it will give me some case record ID. Okay, now, how I have done that is like I just passed on some context to Microsoft Flow, and then Flow has executed that. But before we even go into that, let's jump into macros, and uh, let me show you how this macro is being created. Okay, so first what you do is like you click on new. Okay, and you give the name and description. So let me call this as, say, Girish macro to October. Okay, now here you need to put some description. Now, as you see here, you have got various options. You have predefined automated actions, productivity automation, and you can start the macro execution. Under action, you can see various other options like flow connector, which has run flow, omnichannel connector, which has all these three things: send KV article in chat, link record, unlink record. Productivity automation is a huge list. Okay, it can open a record grid. and then there is a session connector which opens an application tab. Okay, so let me pick up this. Let me say open application tab. Okay, if I click on open application tab, it will tell you that, like, you cannot use this action as a trigger. Please select a trigger. Okay, so first we need to select some sort of a trigger for it. Okay, now let's do one thing. First, select trigger as start macro execution. Now under new step, let's go into session connector and click on application tab template. Now here it is asking for a couple of things: application template ID and the page type. Okay, now if you have all these options defined, then you can open an application tab. Okay, now what is an application tab? So let me open, this is just one example. Okay, so I'm just showing you how to write a macro basically. Okay, I'm not going to go in much depth, but I'll just show you at a top level what an application tab is. Okay, now let me go into the agent experience and go to application tab templates. Okay, now here in application tab template, I can have so many application tab created or defined. Okay, now here let me pick one application tab. So maybe say knowledge search. Okay, now if you see here knowledge search, now knowledge search is an application tab, and if you see this URL, let me put this in notepad and show it to you. If you break down this URL, word wrap, okay, this is the app ID. Okay, this is the page type, this is the entity, okay, and template, and this is the ID. So if you see here, this is that ID of that application page uh, template. Okay, now here if you pick this up and go to your macros, which is the application template ID, and if you say page type, what is the page type? Page type is entity record. Okay, and you save this. Okay, now this is how you build a macro. So this is Girish macro 22 October. Maybe I'll just be very precise. I'll say open KB Girish opt 22. Okay, so this is how it will say create this macro, and we'll just say save and close. Okay, let me create another macro of a different example and show it to you how to open a record or how to open an entity. Okay, so let me create another, say I'll say open contact. So what this will do, this will open a contact record. Okay, so start macro execution is a trigger. I can go here and I'll say open. Is there anything? It's open record or maybe in the record. Okay, so it says open a record grid or open an existing record. Okay, now you need to specify the entity logical name. Now you need to specify the record ID, and you can put show a form ID as well. Now how to open all those things, what you can do is, let me come here and maybe let me go into say one of the cases. Okay, so if I come here, if I go into any of the contacts, maybe let me show you in different interface. Okay, so if I click here and if I go into any contacts, and this can be any contacts or any entity within your organization. So if I click on say Edelvance. Okay, now again this is that Edelvance record, right? Now here we need to find out what is the ID for say Edelvance. Okay, now how do you do that? There are multiple options. What you can do is you can go into either go into make.powerapps.com, go into the backend, go into the contacts, and then start finding the relevant ID information. Okay, so now remember we are hard coding all this information. Now you can make it dynamic as well. Okay, now let me show you by going into, so the right environment. So I'm in the right environment now. I'm going into the tables and I will go into the contact. Okay, there are a couple of things which is required from this macro. One is logical name and the record ID. Okay, so if I type in contact, yeah, if I type in contact, let me manually find that out because this keyboard is playing with me. Uh, Let me select contact. Yeah. So if I select this contact, now if you see the logical name is contact of that particular table, okay, and the contact ID is, let me show you. So contact is the name of that entity, and let me open contact column, which will have the ID. Okay, so let me pick Alexis Fry. Okay, let me copy this. Now, once I copy this record, I will put this record ID over here and entity logical name is contact. Now this will open Alexis. Okay. Now this parameter can be dynamic. So I can put something called as slugs. Okay. Now what are the slugs? So let me search for slugs customer service omnichannel. Okay. If I search this in the search engine, you will find a lot of slugs. Okay, now this basically it will tell you what all information will be passed, can be passed. So like customer name, case ID, case title, QID, entity routing, customer record ID. So all this information, if I put it in the right format, I can copy this information and then put it as a part of the slug instead of hard coding. But I'm just showing you how to, like execute a basic macro. Okay, and I just click on save and close. Now I have written two macros. One is opening the knowledge base article and opening the contact Alexis. Now these are basic macros which is created. Now if you go inside this macro, you can see the run history. Okay, whether how frequently this has been run. Okay, now the next step, what you need to do is now agent scripts is attached to it. Okay, so you basically everything resolves around agent scripts. Okay, so if I go to agent productivity and go into agent scripts, okay, let me show you where to go to get agent scripts. So agent scripts is here. So if I click on manage, now here I can create agent scripts. Now, let me create a new script which is called as Oct 2022 scripts. Okay, you can name anything, but make sure you name it in a right format. Okay, so I'll just say click on save. Now, I've created an agent script. Now, within agent script, you have agent script step. So if I click on new agent script step, this is the step which I'm going to create now. Okay, now I can number it, say 1 or 2. I'll just name it 1, and I'll the first step. Okay, and unique name again something, and action type here, this is important. If you select action type as macro, okay, then it will tell you what is the target macro. Now the target macro for me is open contact Alexis, and I'll save. Okay, so this is the first step within the agent script step I have done. Second script step, what I can do is I will create say open or maybe open KB article. Okay. Now the second macro which we created, and order is number 2, action type is macro, and the target macro is open KB article. Okay, and I click on save and close. Now what we have done, we have created a macro. We have attached to the agent script step, and the agent script step is attached to an agent script. Now this agent script needs to be attached to somewhere. Okay, so if I go into work streams, okay, now if you don't find anywhere where to attach all this information, go to the work stream, and within work stream you will see under advanced setting, session template. Okay, go into the session template and then attach the agent script which you have just created. Okay, now here if you go into agent scripts, here you can add the existing agent scripts. The existing agent scripts which we have just created is OC 2022 scripts. Okay, and I'll click on add. So it's a bit of convoluted process because you need to first create all the base ready, and then you can add all those things. Okay, so I've already added this. Okay, so let's wait for the process to get completed. Now it's added over here in agent scripts, and if I click on save and close, then this particular script will get saved. Now, as you see over here, this is a chat being started. So this is an agent. Hello from agent is the message which will be sent by an agent, and a user will, or the customer will receive this information. Okay, so this is the customer interface and this is the agent interface. So let me show you side to side, and let me dock this. Yeah, now here if you see, this is agent. Now in agent on the right hand side, you will see something called as an agent scripts. Okay, now in agent scripts there are various agent scripts which is loaded. Now one of the script which we just created is October 2022 scripts. Okay, now let me hide this for a moment. Let me hide the customer for a moment. Now what agent will do, agent will see all the steps. First step, open KB. Now here if I run this, what will happen is, like, like, let me close all this predefined tabs which is loaded over here just to make some space. Okay, now if you see this first step, if I click on first step, then what will happen is this macro will get executed, and on the stop tab bar, something should change. Okay, once this macro tab is executed. Now as you see over here, this new tab has been created, and this macro is currently being executed to show some information. Okay, so this is what, like, you can show this information over here. Now here you need to give a collect ID. Now it has opened Alexis Fry, like this is one of the macro which we have written, and that's why it's opening this contact. Now similarly, if I click on open KB, then it should open the knowledge article search, and then this knowledge article search will be rendered in this particular screen. So what essentially we have done is, like, for a specific agent request, we are executing agent script. Agent script has different script steps, and the script step is executing the macro. So the macro can open a tab, it can open a record, it can open a session, it can focus your tab session on that specific tab. So it can do a whole bunch of things apart from executing a Power Automate flow. So that's it, folks. This is all about macro. If you want to automate your task within omni-channel application, then please feel free to use macro to do all those actions. Thanks for watching.